Know that everyone has been breathing, but let's breathe a little bit more intentionally. So what we want to do as we breathe in and then exhale, we breathe in, we're breathing in the newness of the day, the fullness of this time. Today in this class, we will share a few thoughts about agriculture, and we intend for them to be practical thoughts, meaning things that are relevant to our reality right now, which is a boundless reality, and still there are certain elements at play, There's the weather, there's the toxicity of the environment, there's the unfolding newness of the age. There's all these things to balance the scale. So when we breathing in, we're breathing in the newness of this day and the fullness of this time, whatever that means for you. And as we exhale, also very important, we're releasing that which has expired its time. Everything has a time and a season. It could be a thought, it could be a concept, it could be an ideology, it could be a relationship, it could be whatever. All right, so let's just do some breathing in and out for a few moments collectively at your own pace. It always feels so sweet. I always feel conflicted about so-called interrupting, but don't stop breathing. Don't ever stop breathing. As we are breathing, I invite you to close your eyes for a minute. We're in a so-called virtual space, but that's not really true. In reality, we're truly together. Well, let's close our eyes for a minute and invoke our imagination. We're here to really celebrate the beauty of the science, the gift of agriculture. So I want us to envision something related to this high science, this part of our birthright that is in all of us. Take yourself to your kitchen, a place you love to create food, create dishes. Take out your cutting board and place on the cutting board, reach in your basket or wherever you have them stored, a lemon, a juicy lemon, as well as a plump, fresh piece of ginger root. So you're placing these on your cutting board. And take a knife, your favorite knife, a sharp knife, and cut into the lemon. You cut it into the lemon, you're seeing these juices just dripping down. It's a ripe, juicy lemon. You're taking half of the lemon, putting it in your hand, left hand or right hand, and you're tilting your head back. As you tilt your head back, you're squeezing that juicy lemon into your mouth. You're getting a nice mouthful of tangy, ripe, fresh, nutritious lemon juice. How many of you can taste that? If you can't, don't feel any way. Just these are practices, these are exercises that we can do every day. Taste that lemon. These are exercises we can do every day in different ways to make sure that I don't like to use the word control, but we're in the full flow with our senses, that our senses are truly working for us. And before you leave the kitchen, let's go back to the cutting board and just snap that ginger in half. You can actually hear it snap. It's so fresh. You just take it to your nose and smell that fresh aroma of ginger. We can slowly open our eyes. And we want to do one more exercise. Then I'm going to ask someone in the class, because this is not a lecture today, this is an interactive event. I'm going to ask someone in the class to actually share with us, why would we start this way? We talking about farming. We thought it was about oranges and apples and tomatoes. But if you have the ability to do this in terms of you got the space wherever you are, what we want to do is I'm going to demonstrate for you. You're placing both of your hands in front of you, and you got your index fingers up, both of your hands, both of your arms, rather. You have your arms outstretched in front of you. And then we're slowly going to pull them apart. Slowly pulling them apart. And as we pull them apart, don't stop until you reach that threshold in your peripheral vision where you can no longer see both of them. Go right to that doorway, right to the doorway. Push it. If you reach that threshold, I invite you to close your eyes. Bring your hands back to the center like we started. Bring your arms back to the center like we started, and do it again. I'm asking a rhetorical question, not necessarily asking y'all to chime in, but you can if you feel like it. But how many of you feel the width of your peripheral expanding? You will over time. So just to get us started, I don't think there was any ice to even break in the first place. I feel the warmth in the room. I want to invite someone. I don't know if you all have the ability, if you're all muted. You're all muted. So how can I can invite you all to unmute for a moment. And I would like to ask someone to share with us as a means of introduction, and setting the objectives for this course, for this moment we have together, to share with us, why would it be important? Why would it be relevant? Why would it be appropriate for us to start a class about gardening the way we did? Anybody? You can raise your hand and I can go to you and unmute. Don't everybody jump at once. It's overwhelming. Anybody want to share? So I got somebody there. Okay, you can unmute yourself. As a Tasia.
Yep, that's it.
Greetings, Stasia.
Rich Rising. So yeah, when I was looking at the description for this workshop and what would be covered, I seen stewardship
Mm-hmm.
as one of the things. And so I know that stewardship can be done by yourself, but it's more impactful when there's a community of people doing it. And so there's a community of people on this call. So bringing intention and allowing us, especially because we're in a digital space, to envision
Absolutely.
it would make it so that when we actually put it into practice, we can actually feel like, well, we at least put ourselves in the energy of it before.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Anyone else? I agree with you 100%. The other thing about what you shared about community, I remember one of our elder warrior scholars. I'm going to ask Mama Omelika to unmute yourself. Okay.
Okay.
Are you
Yes,
there?
greetings everyone. Omeka, I know it'll always be Omelka, Omeka. But greetings,
I've been calling
Rascal.
you, I've been calling you Omelika for like 30, 35
I
years.
know. It's okay. Oh yeah, we're kindred spirits for sure. And name and spirit and drumming and all that culture. So yeah, to me, gardening is using my senses and looking around what's already growing, and the taste of that lemon was a nice refreshing cleansing kind of vibe. And my fear came in like, oh, don't swallow the seeds, but it's okay. You have to be aware of pests and I would say bugs, because that word is kind of almost negative, but
Mhm.
just the envisioning of the harvest, kind of
Yes,
like not at really at the end, because gardening is a year round thing, from
yes.
saving the seeds to planting to harvesting to figuring out what to plant next and all that. So that got me in touch with the realm of possibilities and what I see with my eyes and what I see with my inner vision of and the faith that even though you might not be able to see it, it's still part of the whole gardening, eating, sharing,
It's a
uh,
whole foot.
growing experience. So thank you.
True. Thank you so much. I would
But
say mission accomplished then. Mission accomplished. Thank you all both for sharing. Because when as the sister was mentioning community, I think of one of our elder warrior scholars, Dr. Naeem Akbar. He wrote a book called The Community of Self. Some of you all would know that book. So it's the community of self. Like as our brothers Pressure and Vaughn Benjamin from Midnight, they have a tune called Same I Are One. Same I Are One, talking about all elements of creation, even though we've been programmed to see the division and the differences, it's oneness. And it's important to know this because we're working in oneness. So that's what we want to talk about today. That's what we want to share about today. I have a video that I want to play for you, a brief excerpt of a film called Dirt the Movie. I'm gonna see if I can drop it in the chat as well, because it is on YouTube, so you all can check it out on your own. But I really want to share this to further orient ourselves. Mama Omeka said a lot right there. I'm thinking of Saint Carver right now, Dr. George Washington Carver. I call him Saint Carver. And as we share about agriculture for these few moments, we want to share some stuff that will empower you, further empower you, because you're already deeply empowered to do their work, to do that, and do the art too. Dr. Carver's an artist, to do a whole lot of playing in the soil, in our mama. So I want to share this video and then we'll get deeper into the meat of the matter. But really, we starting at the beginning, as I said. We brought ourselves into the room, and as was said, it bears repeating. It's very important to bring ourselves into this space. That's the whole point. Beyond licking down the grocery bill, which is natural. Of course, we want to get a smaller grocery bill. Big up our elder Dr. Paul Goss, who is now with the ancestors, New Body Products. I remember one time interviewing him on the radio years ago, and he was talking about how his grocery bill, he was talking about how his grocery bill, his monthly grocery bill is like $10 a month because of all the food he got in his backyard. I think he said $10 at the most, you know? So beyond that, beyond the health benefit of eating our own food, knowing where it comes from, I would humbly submit to you that the greatest benefit is the healing when we with our mother. The earth is not a factory, she's our mother. So I want to share this video with you. We're going to watch a brief bit of it as a means of orientation. Can you see it? Can everybody see the video? Excellent. All right, let's go. Would anyone like to share some thought? Let me see if you have your hands up. Okay. So anyway, one of the reasons why I felt it was necessary to share this, to use this time to share this, when I could just send you the link, is because as we get ready to answer your questions, as we get ready to talk about your specific needs and focus a little bit more narrow, for lack of a better word, focus a little bit more specifically on what you want to get from this time we have today. It's important, again, to lay the foundation, to locate us properly. And the soil, if you get nothing else, from this interaction today, please do know that the soil is the most important factor in any agricultural venture. The most important thing we must be considering all the time is the soil. And it's funny how soil and soul, those two words, seem so similar, soil and soul. But the soil is the most important thing that we can function on and we can focus on. And now it's time to take some notes. If you're not taking, so I'll just give you another reminder. Pardon me if I'm preaching to the choir, because I'm a classroom teacher. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Again, soil is the most important factor in agriculture. And not just in kind of, again, this is all practical. It's not some kind of, whimsical. It's very spiritual. It's very symbolic and all of that. And it's so real. It is the plasma, is the matter in which we operate. And even more than that, it's important to know, to really get the full juice out of this experience, is that it's our mother. She's our mother, the earth. So when they shared about the mycelium, when they shared about the whole network that takes place, that the gift that keeps giving, it's really good to reflect on how that relates to our lives. Because our approach with our curriculum, and we do have 3 curricula that we're offering in our upcoming class, in our upcoming cohort for the Farm the Future Academy. That's Life is a Farm. There's a climate change curriculum, and there's also a farm to skin curriculum. My daughter, Amma, so proud of her, created a curriculum based on her experience with creating skincare products, excellent products. She created a curriculum that will help us to do the same, to take the herbs of the earth and the fruit of the earth and all this and create medicine for ourselves, but also to establish eco business, to establish another means of really doing commerce. Our currency is really about the wealth of the earth. So the more that we can link that up, our means of even nurturing our economy to the earth, it just makes things more importantly sustainable. And that's very important, to be sustainable. What did you think about the story of Clyde? I don't know why he couldn't make Clyde, like he maybe won $1 million and left the city, so his trucks, sat there for a while. Clyde had to drop 40 feet, but that was just the drama of the story. But think about how all of those elements formed over time. There's a film that I would like for you to, I think it's called Earth After People or Earth After Humans. There's a film that really goes into that you might find interesting. If I can find the link, I'll post it. Earth After Humans or Earth After People. I don't remember the exact title, but this film is about, it's pretty much a computer generated projection of how things would look if all the people disappeared from the planet. And none of this is about doomsday or anything. Where I'm going with this is about this system that we've inherited, which is really here to support the growth. So this whole thing about I got a brown thumb is completely, we asking you to throw that away today. Because we've inherited a system, including ourselves. We wouldn't inherit something that we can't use, not from our creator. Maybe man will do that, give you something you can't use, but not the creator. There's no art for art's sake and all that. We've inherited a system that is wired to support the abundance of life, which includes getting out in the garden and growing the food we want to, or going in the patio and growing the food we want to, or even in the windowsill, or even under some grow lights, growing the food we want to. There's nothing that can separate us from our first estate, from our I would say, I don't want to spook none of y'all out, our divine authority, There's nothing that can separate us from our birthright, So that's what we want to share. What I want to do is take a pause and just field some questions. We probably don't have enough time for everyone to introduce themselves, but I would like to get some specific questions. There's so many ways we can go from here. There's some fundamental things I want to share with you, some fundamental principles that I know will be useful in your moving forward. And we also want to take some practical, some real life examples. So I want to invite anyone who wants to ask a question that you think would be good for the group. I'm sure it will be good for the group, because if you got the question, somebody else probably has the same question. So let's do that for a while. And then we'll continue with more of our thoughts and instructions and some basic fundamentals that get you started. Okay. Yeah, I will speak on compost along the way. Sister Janine, I'm asking you to unmute. Let me see. I pressed it twice. Janine, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. So great to hear your voice and see
Thank you. Good to hear yours too.
Sorry.
So I am currently in rural South Carolina. I live on 15 acres of land and I have about 10 that's dedicated to agriculture. And I'm from New York City, so I didn't exactly know what to do. So that video really helped start. I've started walking around the property to assess what's going on. And on one section of it, it hasn't been touched in years. So I have a lot of those trees that have started to grow, that have fallen into the soil and have started to grow a lot of those mushrooms. and I
Mm.
really thought it was waste. So I thought I had to get rid of it prior to seeing that the film that you showed. So I guess
Mm.
the beginning for me is to sort of till that and level the land and then start with irrigation. Is that what I would do?
Okay, let's slow that down a bit. Great question. Wonderful question. Thank you. So there's a few things in that, and I'm glad you picked that up in the video. Like I said, it's difficult for me to even review everything I wanted you to see in it, much less what you would get out of in your own, speaking to all of you. And again, it's called Dirt, the movie. Please remind me before we go, I'll drop that in the chat so everyone can see. Oh, it's in the chat already, sorry. So, um, Janine, first thing, and for everyone, this time of year is a magical time of year. There's certain things that are fundamental that we would cover even if we were meeting in July or if we were meeting in May or in December or whatever. This time of year, especially as it relates to soil, which is the foundation, and actually keeping it real is your biggest investment if you just looking to do a garden a different way and you have some funds to spend and you want to get someone to do your garden for you. Soil is going
Mm-hmm.
to be the biggest investment. So part of the magic of this time of year is that in this in this environment, I don't know if any of y'all are joining us from another place in the world, but even in my home country, Guyana, which is a tropical environment, stays warm year round. There are deciduous leaves that fall, and that's what I'm talking about. This is the autumn where leaves are falling. Those leaves are gold. Yeah, I don't know how to emphasize that enough. That's gold. It's gold. I'm assuming we're all here because we want to grow healthy food. I'm telling you
Mm-hmm.
what our Creator has given us as one of those gifts that continues to give. Leaves, deciduous leaves. I'm not talking about pine as much because pine can get to be acidic. It is acidic. There are some things that can flourish with pine and others that may have difficulty. For those of you whose hands are up, I see them, so I'll get to you one by one. But these deciduous leaves, when it comes to compost, the question was asked about compost. They already contain in them the prescribed proportion, the widely agreed on proportion of carbon and nitrogen, the brown and the green, which is what creates compost. All that process that they so poetically described in Dirt the movie and all of that, everything that's happening every day, you go in the forest and you dig down, you go in any woods and you dig down and you'll see at least a couple of inches of leaf matter that we
Mm-hmm.
call humus before you even get to the topsoil. That's the way, and it just keeps on coming and it keeps on breaking down. It keeps on creating more rich dirt for life to grow. So those leaves, deciduous leaves, oak, maple, all those different leaves that are falling right now, that's gold. So first of all, that's just a free resource that if you have the space, if you have the yard or anything, if you had a space, a community, wherever you had a space to be able to store some leaves, that is gold, yo. So that's one thing. So Janine, you can really that's a huge um, asset in itself to be able to blow
Okay.
those leaves, to rake up the leaves, to stack them up, and to allow them to go into a pile for the winter. If you wet them from time to time, they'll break down even more, that kind of thing. So there's the leaves, and then there's the logs. The logs break down as well. There's a whole system of building beds, some of y'all may be familiar with, called hugelkultur. They're really mounds, they're ancient mounds. The hugel is somebody, as usually happens. I don't know if he's a good person or a bad person or so-called bad or whatever, but it's somebody who rediscovered an ancient technique where basically you would use the the barks, not the barks, but the what's the word I want to use? Come on. The why am I at a loss of words? The logs, the tree logs. There's another word I'm trying to say. The trunk of trees, really, as much space as you can have, and you dig a hole and you use that as the
The
foundation,
roots.
not the roots, but the whole trunk. Like a trunk,
Okay. The
a
tree
tree
trunk.
falls, and they cut it up into logs. You use it
Uh-huh.
as big of as logs as you can, and you can make really great art with it. You can do so when you do an aerial view of your garden, it's all kind of designs and everything. But what I'm saying fundamentally is you're using the logs of trees, and you're using them as the foundation of your garden bed that you're making. And then after
Okay.
that, you're adding wood chips, or even before you add wood chips, you're adding what we call the bramble or the briar, the sticks and twigs and everything. That's the next layer. And think about this. This is a foundation of a bed. And all of these substances, that again, why it was important to show that Dirt the movie, just to get those juices flowing, those creative juices flowing, that imagination. All of those are full of nutrition. You know, that whole tree was sustained through the energy that came through the roots and went up the tree. The whole tree, the stalk of a plant, of an okra plant or a hemp plant or a marijuana plant or a pepper or any plant. The stalk is what sustains, just like the spine helps to keep us going, but not just keep us going in terms of being able to sit upright, but it contains nerves and everything that help us to function. So all of that energy is not going anywhere. Energy doesn't die, it just transforms. So that whole tree is a slow leak vitamin. Think about it as a slow release vitamin for your plants. So first layer is the tree, second layer is twigs and everything. And you'll start to see it taking shape. Third layer, you would put wood chips, which you probably can get from your land, you know, fallen trees or whatever, get them chipped up. Third, and then fourth layer, then you will start put dirt, whether you digging dirt from somewhere, topsoil, but a layer of dirt. And then the fifth layer, I'm losing count, I think that's the fifth, will be compost, the rich compost. But by the time you get to the compost, you're only taking maybe, I would say, 5 to 6 inches layer to get the plant started, because all of that rich stuff you just put down there is going to break down slowly. That type of mound is the gift that keeps giving. You never have to add more soil. Eventually, it's
Mm.
so rich because, again, that hard tree trunk, there's a trunk is the word I was looking for. The tree trunk, the hardcore tree trunk that withstand all kind of winds and everything. You run into it as a child and you bust your head. That eventually breaks down to be like a sponge, and all the while it's breaking down, it's emitting vitamins. So I could be very long-winded about that, but that's just an idea of the type of stuff you have on the land already. The other thing, and this is just for everyone, is to assess what type of sunlight you're getting. You want to look for the spaces, just like you're looking for a house spot. Same thing for a garden. There are certain things you want to look for so that the garden can sustain itself. You don't necessarily want it to be on the lowest ground. Everybody knows why, because water finds the lowest ground. So if there's rain that comes through, if there's flood in the Sahara Desert, as we opened up, we talked about some of the environmental realities that we're working with, and we have to pay attention to them, even for the sake of learning how to navigate them, not to give them more power and all that kind of stuff, but just how to navigate them. It's hotter than it usually is. So that's something we need to think about, et cetera, et cetera. I want to ask more questions, but I want to answer more questions, but I want to make sure that I answer your question, at least as a beginning point, Sister Janine. Can you hear me? Are you muted? Did you mute yourself? All right, let me go to Sister Carla. Yes, both. Hey, Carla, how you doing?
Good morning, greetings.
Greetings,
Thank
bless
you.
you.
Thank you for this session. Just what you shared relating to building the garden definitely drove home. When I cut the hedges, my throwing it all the way in the tree line, I need to keep it up front because it's beneficial to the yard space I have to rebuild soil. My question was related to I cut down the trees that were in the front of my yard because it was touching the house, and I want to plant. I don't want it to just be the lawn. I want my lawn to be practical. So the harmony of the herbs or plants that I've heard that certain, like your onions can't be close to certain types of food. So something along that line, guidance for knowing what to plant together.
Companion planting.
Yes.
Yes, well, a great question. And again, we have a Q&A set for later, but I was just reminded about that. But I'm doing it this way very deliberately because I know that a lot of the questions you have, this is such vast world of information. There are some things, some fundamental things I want to get back to in terms of sharing with y'all as a matter of taking notes, things that will apply to everyone. However, I want to do it this way because I know that everyone's question is resonating with more than just themselves. So companion planting is very beneficial for a few things. What you were mentioning is called companion planting, what the sister mentioned in terms of what to put next to each other. One of the things it's good for is if we don't have a lot of space, we can make use of space, you know? So for instance, onions going in the middle of greens and carrots growing together with peppers. The peppers grow upright, the carrots go down below and have a little grassy top, which you can make them use to make pesto, FYI. Or, you know, a million things. But the whole point is the use of space. So they're good for the use of space, the efficient use of space. Companion planting is also good, very good for pest control. So putting basil with tomatoes. Again, you know, that does make sense because those are two big ingredients in the pesto and everything. But even beyond that, even beyond the culinary link, there is a chemical link. There are publications that give you a whole chart of really good companion planting because some things don't make good companions either. So it's very important, you know. But just for the sake of time, also want to remind everyone to make sure you sign up for our newsletter on our page onthefarm.com, ondafarm.com, and you'll get a link from us. Also, our academy is Farm the Future Academy. And so I'm going to put that into the chat right now so you can link us on Instagram for more information, for more updates, for more tidbits, for the 7 best things to do for this and the 10 best things to do for this, or 8 ways to chew an okra. I'm being a little silly, but really we attempt to share a lot of information that will make it practical for you. So Farm the Future Academy is our Instagram page. We have, like I said, we do have cohorts coming up, which cover life as a farm, which cover climate change, and which cover farm to skin. But yes, sis, in terms of companion planting, it's just, I would say, take a look at, before you even get to that, look at how much space you have and take a look at the nature of the plants. You know, every plant has its nature, and just simply like, how does it grow? What does it need? If one plant needs a whole lot of nitrogen, for instance, because it's a green and it's mostly foliage, that's what the people are going to benefit from. And you have something like a root crop that doesn't do well with nitrogen, then you wouldn't put them together, you know? And for everyone, again, a great resource other than our IG page and taking the class and all of that, a great resource, a go-to resource is the Farmer's Almanac. The Farmer's Almanac online. I don't know the URL, but if you just do, somebody can do it right now, just an experiment. Do a Google search for growing broccoli from seed to harvest. Growing broccoli from seed to harvest. Different things will come up, different sites will come up, but Farmer's Almanac online is one that I highly recommend. Why? I highly recommend it because they go into deep detail about the various nuances about the plant. So to what I'm sharing with you, Sister Carla, about learning the nature of the plant. You know, how does it grow? How much space does it need between plants? What time of the year does it grow? How long does it take to grow? When is the best time to plant it? What's the best time of the year to start planting it from seed? When's the best time of the year to transplant it? What types of insects or what types of pests does it tend to attract? You know, what does it not need to be around and all that kind of stuff. So it's difficult to give just a microwave answer, but it's really about doing the due diligence of learning the nature of the plants. And I don't want to make this sound like a huge task that is an insurmountable mountain. It's really not that. It's something that we can make a real sweet get to know you. You know, like a new relationship. I was always sweet because you're getting to know each other. Imagine, you know, and you developing this relationship with all these different plants. And I'm saying it like that, but it's even though it may be comical, it's so real because they all bring a whole energy, a whole universe of wealth and influence to our environment. Did I answer your question? You could unmute yourself. I guess automatically you're getting muted. Are you there?
Yes. Thank you so much. And the resource, that Farmer's Almanac, definitely, I'll check that out. But you answered my question and more. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to now attempt to share some fundamentals with you all, some more fundamentals. I want to present it in a way almost like a mnemonic device that you can remember. This is the cycle. This is the recurring ritual. This is the religion. You know, when you do something religiously, is you do it in a recurring nature, right? So this is the religion of agriculture. Plant, water, cultivate, harvest, repeat. 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 One more time. Plant, water, cultivate, harvest, repeat. Let's break each one of those down, or let's unpack each one of those. But before we do that, let's just take a pause because I want to make sure, again, and I want to ask you this because I've been talking a long time. I told y'all we're going to be interactive. I'm going to start calling on some people, picking on some people. I see your names here. So I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and give us a little bit of a review. Before we get to the planting, the water, and the cultivate, the harvest, and repeat and everything, I shared about two fundamental things. One thing in particular is the most important element of agriculture, or you can even drop it in the chat. We love volunteers in the garden. So if you drop it in the chat, you make it easier on everybody because I will call on folks. Soil, thank you very much. Foundation is the soil and the soul, Ashe. Yes. And then the second consideration. The second consideration. Not the sun. That's a good guess, but not the sun. What is the second consideration in that hierarchy? The foundation is the soil. Then what we got to think about? The deciduous leaves. No, that's good because that helps us with the soil. But just in the process, maybe I said it so fast that all of you diligent students didn't hear because I know y'all would have picked it. So let me say it again. There you go, Amina. The nature of the plant. So when you figure out the soil, now we think about the nature of the plant. One of the great healers in our time, Baba Dick Gregory, I had the opportunity to interview him several times over the years. And I remember one time he was saying, he was making a joke. He's like, I never had a car. I never owned a car that I didn't know all of the specs about, like the engine size, how much gas, what kind of gas it take, the tune-up schedule, blah, 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 blah. But I had 10 children. Every time me and my wife had a child, I was just getting some. His point was that he paid more attention to the nature of his automobiles and didn't deliberately use our ability as humans procreating to really pour into the nature of our offspring, even before, I guess in this society, we just thought, well, it's all in God's hands, which is true. And if you think about it, through agriculture, it will show us God puts it in our hands in so many ways, whatever is the creator of your understanding. So I'm mentioning that because the nature of the plants is important, because garden planting is like family planning. Garden planting is truly like family planning. And it's such a wonderfully beautiful process. You get to sit down with a cup of tea, with a cup of coffee or whatever, maybe with some other kind of herbs or just with your deep breath, whatever, whatever you do when you're in create mode and you plan out this garden. Before I get to plant, water, cultivate, harvest, repeat, I have to emphasize that because that's where it starts. This is an intimate relationship with Mama Nature. Fundamentally, that's what it is. And I would be irresponsible if I just start telling you about how to plant a tomato, how to clip some thyme and everything. We want to focus on that first because that's the part that we've been disconnected from. And once we got that, y'all got wings to fly and I'm going to be taking y'all's class very soon. Seriously. So fundamentally, let's remember that we've inherited a system of abundance. Within that system of abundance, soil is very important. Soil is the most important factor because we've talking about the nature of the plants. They all have a specific need for a type of soil. As I share all the time, I have 4 daughters and I got to tell them all I love you in a different way, even though they all speak English, because everyone has his or her nature. And so we all need certain things to grow and nurture and to flourish, right? And the plants have the same thing. So again, somebody repeat. I'm gonna unmute you. Let me see. Khalik, is that Khalik? Are you there? Can you speak?
Yes.
Khalik, greeting. Please repeat what we just said in terms of those fundamentals. Before we get into plant, water, cultivate, harvest, and all that, what are those fundamental elements of agriculture that we should always pay attention to?
Um, I, go ahead.
Just went over it again. First one is the soil.
Right.
So what's the next one?
The
Somebody,
sunlight.
not sunlight, no. Somebody help Brother Khalik out. Raise your hand. I told y'all this is an interactive thing. Y'all thought I was gonna be sitting up here doing a song and dance for you. Thank you, Brother Khalik. What's the next one? Someone said it in the chat as well. Nature of the plant. The nature of the plant. So again, soil is very important. because soil is where the plants grow. That's the home. Just as we're rearing children, that's the environment that we put them in. Then what's also important is the nature of that child and nature of that plant. Because it's not just cookie cutter. So as we're planting our garden, it's very important to know that. All right, y'all. Let's keep on our toes. Let's make sure that we're ready when the mad professor calls on you, because I will call on you. Because it is community. It's fun, we're just having fun with it. That's really the thing. So let's get into plant, water, cultivate, harvest, repeat. Planting, as simple as it seems. One of the hacks that I learned when it comes to planting is whether it's a seed or whether it's the plant. I just mentioned Dick Gregory in terms of what he was sharing about making, children with his wife and everything, and they never considered, let's, do this in an intentional way, we have the opportunity to do that now. So when you're planting a broccoli seed, when you're planting a carrot seed, when you're planting a beans, it's very beneficial that you're visualizing this plant in its glory. So do a little study about it. Think about how it's going to look. How that sunflower plant going to look when it's beautifying your whole garden, it's brightening up your whole space. How that plum tree going to taste when after 3-4 years, when it start bearing it, you just munching when it's plum season, How those carrots going to look. Visualize. So planting, that's the part that I would like to add to planting. Of course, planting is putting it in the ground. There are optimal times to plant. And we'll go much deeper in our class, but I'm just giving you some of the basics. There are optimal times to plant in terms of the time of day. If you have seedlings, is in the evening time. And the reason for that is you don't want to transplant in the middle of the day, especially if it's going to be hot, because then they'll go through shock. Just like Africans or other people, they went through shock when they were snatched from one place and brought to another place. People are kidnapped. Right? It's the same kind of thing. These plants, they grew up in a greenhouse. They grew the seedlings, they grew in a certain environment, and now they're being transplanted into another environment. They really don't mind. They're here to flourish for us. That's their nature. And we want to give them a smooth transition as possible. So the best time to plant is in the evening. Colette Muhammad, are you with us? Sister Colette. I was asking you to unmute. Best time to plant is in the evening. Okay. So again, let's review planting. No matter the season, correct. If it's not going to get above like 50 degrees, I don't know if you'd be planting then anyway. It depends on if it's going to be a steady stay at that type of temperature and it's not going to get into freezing. But the best time to plant is in the evening time when you're transplanting. In terms of seeds, it's more flexible. Another thing about planting real quick is planting with the moon. Very, very beneficial. Again, our bodies have the same proportion of water that the earth has. So the lunar tides really affect, the lunar cycles rather, really affect our body. And we know this. I'm preaching to the choir. I know some of y'all on here. Y'all know how all that works together. So it definitely, and that's one of the things that the almanac, I will tell you that the Farmer's Almanac, even when you look into it in terms of best days, they'll have a section, best days to wean a child, best days to potty train, best days to wax floors, best days to neuter an animal, best days for this, best days for that, So those best days are based on lunar cycles for the most part. So the best day to plant food from a seed, if it's food that grows above the ground primarily, is on the waxing moon. The waxing moon is from the new moon all the way to the full moon. As the moon is expanding, the water table is pushing up. And that symbolizes for the plant, that gives the plant even more momentum to live out its nature. I'm attempting to emphasize in 30,000 different languages that this is a real simple dance we're getting into, y'all, with agriculture. And the main thing is honoring things nature, honoring plants and seasons, and honoring the nature of things. Then it's not man versus plant and man versus this. You know, the Western mind, I used to teach English for many years in high school. And when you look at conflict, which every story, every fictional story must have conflict, how the Western mind or the Western world describes it as man versus machine, man versus nature. It's always adversarial, but that's not how life is truly. It's a dance. So it's very important. Any questions about planting before we move on? Any questions about planting before we move on? Let's see. When to plant root vegetables? Sorry, thank you. So the best time to plant food that grows below the ground is on the waning moon. That is from the full moon all the way to the new moon. Sorry. So again, the best time to plant above the ground is on the waning moon. And think about it, just think about it like the water table is rising on the waxing moon. Just think about it that way. As the water table is rising, it's best time to plant food that rises in that nature above the ground. As the water table is waning, as going down, that's the best time to plant root vegetables. For those of y'all who work in the trades, you know, for instance, it's never good, well, it's never optimal. I won't say never good. Good is a funny word. It's never optimal to plant or to pour concrete on the full moon, because on the full moon, you'll get a false sense because the water table is higher. You'll get a false reading. So if you pour concrete on the full moon, you'll notice it'll sink later on, right? So the lunar cycles really do affect. I'm gonna move on if there are no other questions. Y'all holler at me in the chat. I haven't heard from a lot of y'all. Are you still with us? Everyone, just please check in. Are you still with us? Are you following us? Am I going too fast? Are you getting great information? Is it beneficial for you? Thank you so much for checking in. Okay, so next, after we plant, we water. And again, this is life, y'all. This is part of the Life is a Farm curriculum. We water our lives. We must hydrate. A large percentage of our bodies and our reality of our physical world is water. Water is life. And water is represented by our great mother, you know, in many ancient traditions. And when we neglect her, we neglect our life. Okay, so water is simple. Study the nature of the plants and figure out when best or what type, how much water the plants need. So for instance, plants which produce water don't like a lot of water. Plants like watermelon. That's why watermelon capital in Georgia, at least, is down in Cordell, down in South Georgia, where traditionally, before all this climate change, is really dry. Think about the beauty of our Creator and the wisdom in that. You know, you get water producing plants in arid areas because you need water. So there's been progressive information being shared recently about things like H3O. I see my sister Camila here. Blessed love, sis. Congratulations on that journey. I know you made it public, so I don't mind sharing. You know, I know a sister had a just just had a great experience, and I think got some kind of certification or something with our world famous chef Ras Aris Latham. He's one that says all the time he don't drink water. He drinks coconut water. He eats his water. The H3O, some people call it, which comes from watermelon, which comes from cucumber. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole in terms of drinking water and not and all of that. So y'all can feel that out for yourself. But the point is, our plants need water, and it's a principle that we're tapping into, just like everything else. And the principle is hydration. So, when is the best time to water? I want to use some common sense with this. Make sure we all continue to stand on our head, so to speak, and let that blood flow to our head. Let me call on Afinju. I hope I said that right. Afinju, can you unmute if you're here? Just some common sense questions. Afinju.
Good morning. Yes, you did actually pronounce it right. Thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Could you share with us, what does your Ori tell you about when the best time is to water during the day?
My Ori says early in the morning.
Okay. Your Ori is correct to a large extent. You know, that is a good time. The best time, keyword best, though, would be evening time. And the reason for it, Mama Omeka just put in the chat. Because in the evening time, they don't have to compete. The plants, that is, don't have to compete with the sun as much. So they get more benefit from their water. They get it more for themselves before the sun comes up and then evaporation. So we watering in the middle of the day, you know, half of that is going up in the sky. That's why when you look at big ag, you know, and you go through these big cornfields and everything, you will notice that a lot of sprinkling going on in the middle of the day, in the middle of the summer. And this is a reflection of how it's so unsustainable. So the best time to water is in the evening time. Thank you, sis. And the second best time is absolutely early morning. So you don't get to do it in the evening. Please don't say, I missed the window. Early, water them in the morning. They'll still get a good benefit from it. There's some plants like the cabbages, like the kale, like the stuff that's growing right now, the collards and all that. The brassicas, they can be fed through their foliage as well. So you can actually water the actual green itself. But it's also good to always make sure around the root gets water. I would say, again, the one type of plant, which a lot of us like, so that's why I mentioned it, that we would say it's probably more beneficial to water in the early day or not in the evening time, especially when it's cooler, is vine foods like squash, again, watermelon, cucumbers, foods that don't like a lot of water anyway. Because you'll notice the vines, their nature, again, the nature of the plant is so important. Their nature is a little different. They don't have such thick skin. You know, they don't have such dense vines, right? So they can easily rot. Easilier, that's a new word. Easilier. They can rot more easy. Okay? So plant, water, cultivate. Let's keep moving. Cultivate. Cultivation. Instead of me telling you, let me call on somebody. I just said Camila's name. Sankofa. Where are you? A master teacher in her own right. I'm gonna ask you to unmute. I wanted you to tell me what cultivation does. Talk to us about that. Where you gone? Thought I had you.
I'm right here.
Okay, excellent. How you doing?
Peace,
Talk to us about the principle of cultivation in life. And let's take that to the garden.
Cultivation to me, the first thing that comes to mind is bringing things together. Bringing things together to prepare for whatever it is that your vision is to bring it to life. So cultivation is bringing things together to bring something else to life to me. That's cultivation.
That makes sense. And I want to add on to that. cultivation in the terms of let's think of the garden and let's look at our skin.
Okay.
The earth, as we just saw in Dirt the movie, the first layer, the top layer of the earth is the skin of the earth. And our skins are our largest organ. So another aspect of cultivation is think about it like exfoliation. Think about somebody you know that ain't used shea butter in 30, 11 years. Skin like an alligator. You know, there's a reason why exfoliation, it really helps the blood to flow, the water to flow, to moisturize our reality. You know what I'm saying? So cultivation is along those same lines as well. So as our sister said, bringing elements together. Because when you cultivate the soil in the garden, what you're doing is you're taking a hand shovel, you're taking a pitchfork, you're even taking your hand, and you just loosen up the soil around the root. And what does that cultivation do? It helps to, as someone said, taken care of. It helps to open up the soil for those blessings. Just like massages open up our nerves and our spirit for the blessings, you know? Just like exfoliation does, you know? Same thing. So that's what cultivation is all about. Cultivation is literally keeping the layer of skin, which has a tendency to get hard through life experience, keeping that layer moisturized, keeping that layer tender, keeping that layer exfoliated. That's cultivation.
Thank you, Papa.
Much love, sis. Thank you. So we're gone to plant, water, cultivate. What's the next one, y'all? So important. That's the one so many of us, including myself, I'm saying us, we neglect. We do all that hard work and then what we neglect to do. What was the next one on that list? Let me unmute. Signature, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
That's up, Signature. Do you remember what the next step is? Plant.
To harvest.
Yes, I. Thank Kofi House said a Zoom user. Thank you. Harvest, plant, water, cultivate, harvest, harvest. So important. You know, there's a principle that I know my brothers, I'm sure everybody can relate. I'm just messing with my brothers right now as a brother myself. If your mama, well, probably your mama gonna make you eat, but your queen, your daughters, you know, they cook every day, they prepare food every day, and you don't eat, eventually they're gonna stop cooking, right? So it's the same thing with the harvest. Our mama, her nature is to provide for us. None of us, regardless, all is well, Signature. Regardless of, you know, many of us may not have had the sweetest relationship with our mothers, but there's some woman in our family, there's some woman in our life. That is the nature of mama. There's the proverb that says, you know, when a woman is hungry, she says, what's she say? Roast something for the children so they may eat. And sometimes in this world, let's be real, our mothers have gotten the short end of the stick because of that nature, because a whole heap of people take kindness for weakness. So part of this experience is to repair our relationship with our mother, our cosmic mother, our earthly mother, our human mothers, you know? That's what agriculture is all about, truly. So harvest, it's important for us to reap our benefits. It's important for us to get the blessings of our labor. It's important for us to eat the fruit, to honor the plant which showed up to give us that fruit, them vegetables. That's the plant's whole purpose. So why would we deny those favors? Harvest is important. There are harvesting techniques that I'd like to share. And again, those are the types of things that you can get more details about on the Farmer's Almanac, as well as signing up for our class, another shameless plug for the Farm the Future Academy. Make sure you join our mailing list, please. The link should be there. And make sure you join our mailing list and you'll get information. You know, we won't spam you. We just share information that is relevant to the subject matter. But Farmer's Almanac is a great place to do that. So we're talking about how to harvest thing. It can get really intricate in terms of harvesting, you know, because again, we can't run away from this principle because it's a principle of life. Everything has its season. I did an interview with a brother, a great teacher in our community the other day, Dr. B. Serious, and he was mentioning about how one of the songs that he wrote, one of the first songs that he wrote, I forgot the name of it. It's, I Want to Get Close to You or something, but by Marvin Gaye. It's a popular Marvin Gaye song. And that song was stolen from him by his manager and sold to Marvin Gaye for $20 million. He was 20 years old at the time. The point of the story is not that drama. The point of it is he realizes in his maturity that that would have been the wrong time for harvest. Because 20 years old, he had all kind of stuff going on. And with $20 million, he might not have been here right now to even tell his story. So harvest has a time. There's a time for harvest, and each of these plants will give us that time when we study their nature. What I was saying in terms of it getting intricate, you know, there's some herbs that is best to harvest on the moon. There's some herbs that is best to harvest in the early daytime. You know, there are some plants that it's best to harvest, like I say, in the early morning in the dew when it's wet. There's some that is best to wait until the dew dries off so that you don't create more or you don't open up the plant for more, what's the word I want to use, for more of a chance of dis-ease. All of this is part of that reality of harvesting. So again, it's really about the nature of the plant. It's really about the nature of the plant. I want to, and then repeat. Repeat is just that. Once you form the formula for your success in your life, please utilize that formula. And just like or I would say beyond what the most high-tech computer and so-called smart computer can do, you'll get updates along the way, you know, but tap into that formula. Tap into the formula of your success and flow with it. A meme we see all the time on the social media, you know, don't expect everyone to understand your calling. It wasn't a conference call. And though we're talking about empirical things, which tomatoes, they're not going to grow in the winter like they grow in the summer. They do have a season. When it comes to this relationship with the garden, I cannot emphasize enough that it's so personal and so intimate. It's truly church. It's truly church, you know. So I want to open up the floor for questions because there's so many different ways we can go. But let's just review real quick. What is the first? And I want y'all to put it in the chat, please. Just put it in the chat. What is the first and most important principle or ingredient of agriculture? Put in the chat, everyone who can access the chat. Drop it, drop it, drop it. Let's make sure we're all on the same page. Speak for yourself. Don't look around at what everyone else is saying. What is the most important factor? Benny, I'm seeing it. Yes. Soil. And think about how soul and soil are so similar in sound and function. Dirt. Somebody said dirt. Yes, I am. Give thanks. Next one. After considering the soil, before we even get to the planting and the watering and all of that, what should we consider as we're planting our garden? After the soil, what's the next important factor? Yes, the nature of the plants. The nature of the plants. The nature of the plants. So important. As we said earlier, garden planting is like family planning. You know, the characteristics of the plants. Yes. So important. Characteristic of the plants. Okay. And then we're going into our sequence. And this is just the sequence of any given plant, you know. Sometimes you might spend more days on cultivating than anything else. Sometimes you might just focus on watering. There might be days when it's in the dog days of summer, everything has been planted. You're just trying to keep it alive. So you just watering, 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 you know. However, the sequence is important because we want to be able to do this backward with our eyes closed, blindfolded, doing the two-step, doing the George Jefferson, doing the WAP. Some of y'all know about the WAP. I know some old school people in here. Let's start with the first thing we do when we're inserting the plant. Plant, water, cultivate, harvest, repeat. Yes, that's it right there. That's the sequence. Plant, water, cultivate, harvest, repeat. Plant, water, cultivate, harvest, repeat. Planting is about, and give us a reminder, someone or everyone, some of the things to consider very deliberately when planting. What is very important? What will be a benefit to the process when you're meditating, where you have this in your mind and your soul and your spirit when planting? Moon cycle, yes. Moon cycle, yes. That is true. Moon cycle, yes. The other thing, the placement, the nature of the plant. Yes, that's the one I was looking for. The moon cycle is very important. Thank you. Best time to plant is very important. All of those are true, but the nature of the plant, because you want to visualize this plant in its fullness. And think about if you can slow down enough to do that. Oh my goodness. I get goosebumps. I get chills thinking about it. We can slow ourselves down to do this with a carrot. You know, every seed we drop, I'm looking at this big juicy bunch of carrots coming out and carrot juice and people enjoying the carrot cake and carrot, you know, skincare stuff and all kind of stuff. You know, you're visualizing it. That is such an important principle of life in our everyday life. So becoming good gardeners, I don't use the word guarantee a lot. I can say I can guarantee through the power, through the authority of the Most High, creator of the heavens and earth, that it will make us more effective people, human beings, business people, partners, mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, students, all of that. Okay. I'd like to open up for questions. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hand and I can ask you to unmute. I'm doing my best to take a look. Okay, let's go to, who is that? I see. Khalik, my brother. Let me find you on here. Asking you to unmute, bro.
Yeah, greetings. I just had a question about compost. I heard all the things you said. If you don't have a lot of space,
Yes.
and something we experimented with years ago, kind of unsuccessfully, was using a garbage can for like a compost bin, or do you prefer like a tumbler? I like the tumblers, but they don't hold as much as a garbage can. So
Yeah,
for
great question. Great question. I would say once you have the ability, the tumbler is good because it turns. The big thing about compost is the turning of it. Compost, again, to review, is carbon and nitrogen, so the browns and the greens. The most important aspect of getting it to where you want it to be is turning it at least once a week, you know? And big farms turn it with a bobcat. So once you can manage that, that would be the biggest consideration. But the more, other than that, obviously, the more volume you can get, the more bang for the buck. It's all good.
Okay, thank you.
Sister Andrea Johnson Hall, I'm asking you to unmute.
Greetings.
Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings. I live in a townhouse, and so I have a very small front yard with a tree that I've been told I could potentially start planting if I put maybe mesh over it. We have lots of deer, and the deer, they eat everything that I put out there. So I have a balcony that doesn't get a lot of sun, but I'm wondering what is it that one can do to ensure that if I'm gardening in these types of limited spaces, what should I be using, container wise, or what types of things should I focus on that are more manageable in this limited area that I have?
Wonderful question. Thank you so much. A few things. Let's start with the most nutrient dense. The most nutrient dense food, some of the most nutrient dense foods on the planet are the microgreens. You can do that just with kitchen light. And again, they're nutrient dense, very important. So this is not something you're just making a shortcut because you ain't got the space. It's actually much better for you. All right. So yeah, microgreens, you can just put them in seeds and in big what's the word, mason jars or other things, you know what I'm saying? And do that. Also, I would look up, I remember when COVID started, my business partner, Queen Yin, and I, when we had Shamba, we started propagating this information about the 6 top low light vegetables that you can grow. You'd be surprised at what you can grow right in your yard, I'm sorry, not right in your windowsill. Yeah, I never used it. Right in your windowsill, you'd be surprised. So those are 2 things. There are some greens, like even lettuces, even broccoli, you'd be surprised. You can grow a lot in the small space and without having a lot of yard space. In terms of the outside, real quick, I would say if you have the space and the tree, I think you said something, there was a tree there. I don't know how that works, but if you have, you say your front window gets great light and your house plants thrive. Exactly. So that's something to start. Yeah, crepe myrtle is something you can cut down. I mean, if it's your property and you have that authority, but the crepe myrtle, because they get big. But I was saying about the deer, you can put something like mesh, which will be a small investment to be able to keep them out, because that's the reality of nature. You got to grow enough for the wild animals. One of our farms, we have a deer fence, electric. It's hot because they just gangster. They'll sit there, literally a whole gang of them will look at you in the garden. You were there in the garden and they just waiting on the outskirts. So you're going to go home so we can get to work, They're really that ridiculous. So that's something to consider as well. All right. Signature, I'm asking you to unmute. You're welcome, sis.
Hey, thank you again.
Please.
My question is, what is a good trustable source for seeds or for plants outside of just maybe going to a Home Depot or a Lowe's?
Oh, great question. Let me see if I can pull it. I don't have my phone on me. I can get to my phone in a minute. Because there's a company that sells indigenous seeds, and that's very important. The thing about that, I didn't get to talk a lot about that, but thank you for your question because that brought it up. There, being able to grow foods that are native to the environment, they sell a lot of indigenous seeds. Growing foods that are native to the environment obviously are more beneficial because they're more nutrient dense, like the wild foods. My sister Tina Myers of Mystic Roots, among others, is a specialist in taking wild food, like the foods that, ain't talking about the plants we cultivate in the soil or the plants that we deliberately, seed and everything. I'm talking about the dandelions and the mugworts and the lamb's quarters and the this and the that, and turning them into a feast. But the thing about those, I'm going to get to your question about the seed companies, but the thing about those is they're also, because they're just grown by the hand of the creator, they don't have any human interference. So they're more, it makes your garden experience less work heavy. They're more, low maintenance. And it's not a shortcut because they're better for you. They're more nutrient dense. All of that, all in one package. So native plants are good. And I'll see if I can find that company. But other plants, other seeds, and I don't do commercials for companies. However, there are some good quality companies. On the high end in terms of the pricing, high mowing seeds, I think they're out of Vermont, but I've always had good customer service from them. They're one of the best in terms of customer service. They do a lot of research. They're environmentally conscious and they got good seeds, so they research their material and everything. And they have, from what I've never seen their actual, I haven't been physically to their location, but it seems to me that they have good growing practices because they grow plants for the seed. That's how you get the seed. On the heirloom side, one of the best companies I've been in contact with is Baker Creek. That's rareseeds.com, rareseeds.com. And if anyone in the class does know the name of these Black companies, especially that sell seeds, there's a couple Black seed companies, indigenous seed companies that they're run by indigenous people, but they also, even more importantly, sell indigenous seeds. Sister Juanita, I see your hand coming to you. So rareseeds.com, Baker Creek, high mowing seeds. You have companies like Johnny's and all that. That's like the Walmart of seeds, Spell the Vermont company name is High Mowing. You type it. HIGHMOWING. High Mowing. All right. So those are a few seed companies. Just Dalu. Dalu, is that a seed company, Amina? Sister Juanita, I'm asking you to unmute.
Peace, how you doing?
Hey, greetings.
So normally when I water the plants, sometimes I overwater them, and one of them was kind of overwatered, and there was like a white form like on top of it. What is the white form that's on top of it when you overwater it?
You said white film?
Yeah.
Kind of like your body. Think about if a human body was in the water too long, got waterlogged. It's almost like a defense mechanism. And also
Okay.
a sign that you were a sign that you were on point when you realize you overwatered it.
Okay. So maybe
Generally
it just makes it.
speaking, it could lead to mildew and everything. That could be aspect of it. Usually with that, you want to use something like peroxide or vinegar as a foliar spray. Use it gently. Look at how things are going, and that will usually bring it forward to center. That will bring the plant back to healthy conditions.
Okay. Okay. That's
right.
good.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? So I want to invite you all again to make sure you sign up for our newsletter. And through the Eventbrite link, we have your information. And again, we'll share this with you, share information with you about the class. In the city, what is a great source for Black soil? The place I used to use stopped selling their soil. They got out of Savannah because that other company started putting cotton seeds in the soil. Oh, yeah. I mean, I know what you mean. There is a company in the city of Atlanta, you were saying? There is, I think there was Longwood Plantation close to Savannah. They actually had good compost, very good compost. Well, this DeKalb County, if you have a DeKalb County license or license plate, you can get there. You can also get it anyway. You just have to pay, but it's free if you have DeKalb County stuff at the Seminole landfill, as well as across from the DeKalb Jail and Memorial. That's one spot. Other than that, when you say black soil, I mean, there's a brother truly living, not truly living well. He's connected with True Living Well, with Kari Diop, um, of Think Green. I was trying to think of the name of his company, Think Green Inc. They're on Instagram. Let me put it in the Think Green. Look up Think Green on Instagram. And while you're on Instagram, make sure you follow our page, farmthefutureacademy.com. And I want to ask y'all if you benefited from this. You go on the page, you'll see the promotion for this class, and leave a comment, leave a testimony. Share that with us so that we can know how this information, how this session affected you. We want to make sure that we are giving you the optimal service in terms of the use of our time. You can't raise your hand. Is it Jade? Increasing yield on vegetables. That's a loaded question. Increasing yield on vegetables. I think it's pretty much everything we covered. Other than that, and I'm not being funny, I mean, really, honestly, the whole process. Other than that, in terms of plant food in particular, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium are the main foods for the structure of the plant. Plants need a lot more than that micronutrients, just like our bodies. Again, this is so similar to us. So it's a parallel dance we're doing. So as we study ourselves and we get more in tune with our body, it's the same thing with the plant. So, but nitrogen affects the foliage. Nitrogen affects the foliage, so all the green in the plant. Potassium is for the fruit. So it's even if you look at the what's the word, the fertilizers, can't even get the word out because most of them are on food with, but they are usually described as 10 10 10 or this number, this number, this number. That's N, P, and K. The first number is for nitrogen, which controls the foliage. Excuse me. The second number is P, which is phosphorus, and the K is potassium. Phosphorus develops the root, or sorry, potassium develops the root. Phosphorus is what I was looking for earlier, develops the fruit. So for instance, when tomatoes, you're seeing the flowers on them, that's a fruit because out of the flower comes the substance, right? That's a fruit plant. So if you're seeing the tomatoes starting to flower, then it's a good time to give them a little bit more of the fruiting food, which is potassium, or phosphorus. I keep saying potassium, sorry, phosphorus, which you can get from horse manure and them kind of things. There's many other things, fish emulsion, many sources. You can look that up. For nitrogen, alfalfa is a great substance because alfalfa, just make sure it's not GMO alfalfa. This is horse food, That's what these big, strong horses, they don't eat McDonald's or none of that. They eat, or Beyond Burgers and none of that. They eat alfalfa and they're strong because alfalfa has deep roots. Alfalfa is one of the herbs with one of the deepest roots in the so-called the plant, so-called kingdom. So it gets a lot of minerals from the soil, from the earth, and translates that to the plant. Okay. So yeah, But in terms of getting soil, those are some of the places. What is your take on the commercial grade store-bought soils and fertilizer? If you need to get them, I would just say do your research. I won't condemn anything, and unless it's something that really, is, like genetically modified foods and everything, things that not only just are socially, unacceptable for whatever reason, but will work against your body, work against your health. It's like eating parasites, food that sit. And if you see food that you get, or food stuff, because it's not food that you get, and you put it on your counter and it just stays fresh for the next 30 days. Or if you are doing something like doing an experiment from time to time, you go to the grocery store because there's something in your spirit. Trust your spirit. It's telling you the this thing don't feel right. It's too rubbery or whatever. Someone was telling us the other day about lettuce in our class we had, that they got lettuce and it was fresh in the fridge for 3 weeks and it tasted like plastic. Something to look at. So a good experiment to do is put it outside in nature. Take a leaf, break a piece off, or cut a piece of the fruit or whatever, put it in nature. And if you don't see ants and insects going after it, you leave it alone. That's the clearest I can be. Do we use coffee grounds? Yes, coffee grounds are a good source of nitrogen and carbon. They're one of those that have a balance. Another thing is spent grains in terms of compost. If you can get a relationship with a brewery, there's so many breweries, especially in Atlanta, opening up, and farmers are hip to them, so they probably got hit up already. Coffee grounds, coffee shops is another one to add to your compost mix. They will truly benefit the process. Benefit the process. They help to call a lot of earthworms into the process, and the earthworms are the most important farm workers you'll have. Most of what is purchased in the grocery store site counter makes no change. My motivation to start a garden. Ashe, Sister Carol or Sister Carla, may your dance be beautiful. May your dance with the plants be beautiful. Okay. Again, I want to invite you all as we get ready to close. Thank you. Glad it was helpful to you. It will be helpful to us if you spread the word about our academy, about our organization On the Farm. Farm the Future Academy is the Instagram for those y'all are on IG. Please follow us. onthefarm.com. onthefarm.com is our website. That's one way to join our newsletter. Please do join our newsletter and give us the opportunity to stay in contact with each other. We have our cohorts coming up. We also have a lot of one-off classes. We have a lot of one-off classes. So the cohorts are like 6-week classes that really go deep into the instruction of these different things: climate change, farm to skin care, very important. So, and showing us how to care for our skin and also showing us how to develop these products. And of course, life is a farm, which is the gist of what we're going through today. We get much deeper with that. These cohorts will be in spring 2025, so you have time to sign up, okay? But we also have one-off classes, like for instance, our brother Madi Awizo, he teaches a class on alternative building styles, teaching us how to create sustained and sustainable and economic structures, like earth bag homes and yurts and all these types of things that will be much better as we can see what's happening with our planet. The work that we're doing and we've achieved today, and I say we have achieved it because we have made an agreement with ourselves, I know we have, to establish this beautiful creation in a certain way. So that's already half the battle. So congratulations to all of y'all on that. But that work that we're doing helps to balance that. However, there's a lot going on the planet, so it's very important. So with those classes, like the alternative building style, he teaches us how to deal with structures or create structures that can withstand these heavy storms. Places like the Caribbean and everything are in a serious situation right now. The storms are getting more intense. And let me give you one perfect example as we close in terms of how it all fits together. I may have mentioned it at the beginning. In that same film, Dirt the movie, they actually show this very poignantly. The fertilizers, the toxins from those chemical fertilizers in the breadbasket in the Midwest that are really connected to streams and water bodies that are connected to the Mississippi River, those things leach into the groundwater. They leach into the streams. They go down the Mississippi River. They create situation in the Gulf of Mexico that only algae can grow because all of the other fish get choked out. And then what happens? It sends nitrous oxide into the environment. And it also helps to heat up the Gulf. That's why in the middle of October, when the Gulf traditionally is getting cooler, this water is so warm that Hurricane Helene can gather all that strength and pass through. Okay, so just to give you a sense of how we're weaved into this web. I didn't want to start with that because that can be overwhelming. What I wanted to start with, and I know that we are clear, we're on the same page, is our part in this and our nature to be overcomers. To be overcomers. Our default setting is homeostasis. Our default setting is abundance. That is the default setting. So just as the poet Rumi said, our task, when he's talking about love, our task is not to seek for love, but to seek for all the obstacles we've built towards it. It's the same thing in the garden experience. Same thing in the garden experience. So thank you all for joining us. Do sign up for our newsletter. Do sign up with our Instagram page and drop by, share a testimony. If this was useful information, if you enjoyed the class, share it with others, and let's continue to build the world that we desire to see. This is truly a very ripe time, a very fertile time for that. It truly is, And so I'm just glad to be along with the ride for y'all. Much love to all of you. Continue to enjoy your Saturday. Peace and blessings. Yes, we will send the recording. Thank you. No, I'm going to